BDS activists will tell you they're only defending the rights of Palestinians, but when they chant from the river to the sea, they're calling for the complete destruction of Israel.
Our movement, the BDS movement, the Palestine Solidarity Movement, is finally starting to reframe the conversation, and that's why they're so afraid.
The BDS movement is growing and has become a force on more and more college campuses. It is aimed at only one nation, the only democracy in the Middle East.
No other country, just Israel.
Richard Millett tracks the BDS movement through his website.
They won't be calling for boycotts of America, who they don't agree with, or British government policy that they don't agree with, before we get into China, Russia, Syria, Saudi Arabia. There is no boycott, Dale. So you answer why.
The answer to that question can be found in the answer to another important question. Who founded the BDS movement? BDS leaders say the movement was launched in 2005 by the Palestinian Civil Society, but the evidence shows that is not true. Watch this video of BDS leaders discussing the origin of the movement at a conference in May of this year. Ilan Pape is director of the European Center for Palestinian Studies at the University of Exeter in England. He's considered a leading intellectual in the BDS movement. Here, Pape admits that the Palestinians did not create the BDS movement.
We're also active in it.
Well, the Palestinians launched the BDS in 2005 and 2004.
Yes, not really, but yes, okay. For historical records, yes. Okay.
That's important.
It's not true, but it's important.
It is important, because if the Palestinians did not begin the BDS movement, then the question, of course, is, who did? BDS expert Professor Gerald Steinberg in Jerusalem says BDS is a creation of European socialists and Muslim nations who oppose Israel, led by the 57-nation Organization of the Islamic Conference, the largest voting bloc at the United Nations.
They get together with the radical left, started with the Soviet Union, certainly filters over to the Trotskyites and the Labour Party in the UK, and many other radical allies. And the fact that this is in many ways a European radical political movement makes it even less legitimate.
There have been boycotts of Israel since before the creation of the State of Israel. Some even trace the boycotts back to Nazi Germany in 1933. But the modern BDS movement took shape at the 2001 UN Conference Against Racism in Durban, South Africa, an event so rife with blatant anti-Semitism that the US and Israeli delegations walked out. Kenneth Marcus is president of the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights Under Law.
People were distributing or selling copies of the so-called Protocols of the Elders of Zion. There were people there supporting Nazism and urging a return to Nazi anti-Semitism. From that movement, the new BDS campaign emerged.
Another key question is who funds BDS. Steinberg says the movement gets hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Some of its funding is difficult to track. But if you live in a Western nation, there's a good chance you help fund it through your tax dollars, and perhaps even your tithe. The BDS movement gets most of its funding from the European Union, European national governments, and even the US government, who give money to NGOs or non-governmental organizations that claim to fight for human rights, but who also oppose the State of Israel.
Amnesty International, Ken Roth from Human Rights Watch. These organizations are funded by governments under the label of international aid, promoting human rights, promoting peace and development. The Swiss, the Swedes, the Norwegians, the British, Germans, up and down. The money there is huge.
Some Christian charities also give money to BDS. The webpage for Christian Aid makes it look like it only fights poverty. Drill down on their website and you'll find they also support BDS, as does the Presbyterian Church USA. And while the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement has been in one respect a failure, it has accomplished very little in the policy arena, it has succeeded in another area, by spreading anti-Semitism across college campuses.
What we're seeing increasingly is that BDS activists are intimidating student governments at colleges and universities to pay for their activities, and if they don't, there may be repercussions.
Aggressively confronting and sometimes assaulting Jewish students and faculty at pro-Israel events. Ronnie Fraser, founding director of the Academic Friends of Israel, warns the next generation of leaders is being brainwashed, that Israel is the worst nation on earth.
Students are being fed a diet of Israel is a racist state, Israel is a Zionist state, Israel equals the Nazis.
We support the Intifada!
With massive funding behind it, BDS is turning people against Israel and creating a generation of leaders who may someday try to carry out what some have said is the real goal of the BDS movement, the elimination of the State of Israel. Dale Hurd, CBN News.